I'm Bishop S. Todd Townsend, and you're watching Point of View.
Tell me, what's your point of view? It is your view. Point of view, point of view. What's your point of view? Tell me, what's your point of view? What's your point of view? Tell me, what's your point of view? It is your view. Point of view, point of view. What's your point of view? It's time to hear from you. Welcome to Point of View.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into the Point of View. I am your host, Amanda Johnson, and we are here with Bishop Todd Townsend, the pastor of the Resurrection Center, also known as the Professor. Thank you so much for taking time out of your rehearsal today to talk with us.
No problem, Amanda. It's my joy, and welcome. Welcome to the Resurrection Center.
The Resurrection Center is awesome. Now, when we walked into the sanctuary, positive energy, awesome energy in there. And we saw you up there rapping and doing your thing. The dancers were dancing, and this looks like an awesome atmosphere where the young people will come and just fall in love. But we know that there will be some people that will probably come in and say, this isn't a church atmosphere, this is more of a club atmosphere. Yeah. What would you have to say to those, to their response?
Well, I think I would disagree. It's definitely a church. The Spirit of the Lord is here. I think that we tend to relegate church to a certain region. And the downside of that is it's almost ivory towerism. So if it's a church and we lock everything out and then we don't go out, we tend to live in an isolated context. So for instance, if you build a fence around yourself, you inevitably fence out far more than you fence in.
Yes.
And so I think that we're definitely a church. People are saved with regularity. We have over 30 ministries, people growing. The church has a 121-year history, and it's continually evolving. But I think in terms of the gospel through hip-hop, it's really the language of this generation. And one of the things I think that Christians have to accept is that genre is not going anywhere.
Yes.
Corporations are using it to advertise their products. I think instrumental and wise educators are using it because of the magnetism for young people, the ability to memorize, the rote patterns of memorization. So if you can teach using rhythmic or hip-hop type approaches, kids retain more. And I think the same would be true with the gospel. And that is, we put the fact that he rose, he got up from the dead with all power in his hand, and we put that into a rhyming context. I think children will resonate with that.
Definitely, and the young people that were in there, they were excited about being in there. They were dancing, they were just enjoying Jesus. Yeah. So how did you tell us about your road from becoming the bishop to being the professor?
Well, it's been a journey with Christ. My wife and I will celebrate 24 years in September. Awesome. Almost 30 years, just shy of 30 years with me walking with the Lord. And I grew up in West Philadelphia, and I grew up on the streets. So prior to Christ, it was ugly. It was all street. It was all the worst possible things. At this stage, my wife and I both accomplished our doctorate degrees. Our children are 22, 21, and 20. Awesome. And they're doing good. And so I think that life happens in 20-year cycles. I think a lot of times people don't know why they're getting bored or frustrated because they've been doing something they love for so long. Right. And for some reason they can't figure out why they're agitated or irritated at something they've been doing. But I think cycles happen, and what God does is gives you an opportunity to recreate yourself or create a new path. And what's unique for me is that this has actually become an exciting path. So I'm looking at the next 10 years. I'd like to produce a number of albums. Both my children are doing verses in the album. The young people are excited. We're looking at production at a variety of different levels. So actually what God is doing is taking a context that I'm familiar with and birthing a new path. And so it's exciting.
It looks very exciting. I know I wanted to get up on stage, just going in there. I mean, just the energy and the vibe in there is awesome. And the show that you guys are putting on tonight, the list is awesome. So this is your debut CD release of your album, Glory Got Me.
Yes.
Talk about the album.
Okay. Glory Got Me I wrestled with a couple of titles. Glory Got Me is one of the singles, and so is Winners. We were going to call the album Winners. Both have the same context, but Glory Got Me really captures the fact that salvation got me. It's how God interrupted my life those years ago, and He came down and He got me. And ever since then, He's had me. So the glory got me is a phrase that's unfamiliar, but it is His glory. It's the glory of Christ, the love of God, and it got me. And the album has songs like Winners, Christ Got Up from the Dead, and as a result, we as believers are examples to achievers. And so we're winners, you know, because He got up, we can get up. There's a song called Victory School, and it hosts really my daughters in the middle verse, and the context is a university, the universe city, and I'm the professor. I'm the professor in Christ. That's my profession ever since He set me free, and so that's how we got PROFESS'IR, and because we profess Christ, and so she testifies about her victory even as a single parent. And we also have a song called Got Vision. He gave me vision. Yep, I got vision. So in other words, there's nothing that can stop us as long as we can see the goal. Breathing and believing. Everything breathing has a reason to believe Him. Yes. So Psalm 150, let everything that hath breath praise the Lord. Right. Politics and pearls. The political state of events and the pearls are God's people. And the world without pearls is darkened without light. Right. So just trying to be relevant, fun, and I have no interest in instrumentals that aren't pop. So I want hot instrumentals and good lyrics. So.
We are going to watch a clip from the PROFESS'IR's album, so stay tuned.
Jesus on it, Christ is the only God in the way. Covered in this, global stress, clear the evidence. Me fight for our freedom. Back his hands down, sin can't beat him. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not lack. Everything the devil stole, I'm taking it back. When the enemy be trying to be extreme in the family, he believe the triune God who's born great. Father, Spirit, Son, Jesus Christ, truly died for me. And betrayed me so He could be the whole human up inside of me. Fight for the liberty, every single human being. Only plan we got is the one that leads to victory. Take full control of the spirit realm of sin. Promotion times across the Red Sea, across the land, you believe in Jesus be the way, truth and the light. Everybody needs to sing. I am that I am, and I am that I be. Moses heard that at an afternoon tea. Freedom time, freedom time, freedom time. Use the rhyme. Leader. Yeah. Freedom time, yeah. Freedom time, yeah.
Weddings, church events, stage plays, commercials, music videos, and more. Visions Video, where we video your vision. Check us out at www.getvisionsvideo.com or email us at visionsvideo@comcast.net. It's time to hear from you. Welcome to Point of View.
Hey, welcome back to The Point of View. We are here with Bishop Todd Townsend, also known as the PROFESS'IR. So, Professor.
Yes.
From our reading your bio, you have a bookstore in Philadelphia. Share with us some information.
Well, we had a bookstore in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Prior to coming to Delaware, we had a bookstore up 69th Street. It's called the Tree of Life. I still have the Tree of Life Ministries. While I was at Sharon Baptist Church, which was my home church, actually that's where I gave my life to Christ. In time, my mother and I opened a bookstore where we initiated Tree of Life Ministry while I was pastoring at the Second Antioch Baptist Church. We opened a bookstore, and up 69th Street, I think we had it up and running for approximately 3.5 years. And then I got called to this church, and so she continued to run the bookstore for a little while, but she wanted to come be with me, so I said, well, Mom, let's actually strategically prepare. And once we were ready, we did that. We sold all the stock, and she relocated up here, so now my mom's up here, and I take care of her, and she's never been happier.
Wow, that's awesome. Now that I saw that you are part of the Navy, Share with us a little bit about your military background.
Well, growing up in West Philly, I grew up in an abusive home. I grew up in a negative environment. There was crime and the street life in general. And I don't know why, but at 18 I just realized I needed something. And so kind of spontaneously, just kind of joined the Navy. It turned out to be a great experience. Boot camp really woke me up. It made me realize that I could do more than I thought I could do. You know, you go from being lazy to being regimented. And and so there were people in boot camp who hung in the back and they complained the whole time.
Right.
I was with them at first, but I noticed the people up front, they didn't talk the same as the people in the back talk.
Wow.
People in the back were like, I want to go home. The people in the front were like, let's break the record. Well, we broke the record yesterday. Well, let's set a new record. And so I mentally just started hanging out with those in the front. And boot camp it was a great experience, and it changed my whole perspective. Boot camp led me to, after boot camp, I went into overseas training and went to Italy. I was stationed in Sardinia, Italy, La Maddalena and Palau, were the two Liberty Islands. I was on the USS Orion. It's a submarine tender. And that experience changed my mindset. I have a phrase I use. I'll use it. It's a crude phrase. It's called the roach box mentality, where you have a 10-block radius and you think the whole world functions like your 10-block radius. Well, that experience broke that box apart for me, and so the military was one of the most positive experiences I had, and it changed my mentality. It made me hope for more.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, watching you prepare for your debut tonight, everything, there seems to be order, there's discipline, and you seem to be a very confident person, but in your bio it said that you didn't have a father in your life. So who were the role models that were able to impart into you to help you get to this place?
Well, whatever confidence you saw tonight is a direct result of Christ, number one. Keith Reed was my first pastor. I didn't grow up in church because of the nature of the home we were in. So my first pastor was Sharon Baptist Church, and Keith Reed was a young pastor at the time, but he was very vibrant. He was very knowledgeable in the Word. He was powerful in his presentation. He was confident. And that's where the Lord led me and saved me. And so it was Pastor Reed, and he led me to conferences where I met Tony Evans or E.K. Bailey and strong men across the country. And one after the other, I began to realize, I'll never forget, I was at a conference with Gardner C. Taylor, and he was speaking. And in that moment, the Lord showed me a visual. And I looked at Gardner C. Taylor, he's an older man, and I looked at me as a younger man, and I saw this golden chain. And the Lord said, you're one of the links in this golden chain. I was like, wow, okay. So a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Yes. So that was great motivation at that point. I said, okay, let me do my diligence. So I think that the role models God sent as a result of my salvation. Currently, Bishop Ralph Dennis is, as a bishop, Bishop Ralph Dennis consecrated me. And his role model as a leader, as a spiritual father. Funny story. Actually, I had probably never allowed any man to occupy the space of a father until I came to Bishop Dennis. Wow. Because he's just such a father. Yes. And I think that something that hadn't been broken all those years was broken at the inception of our relationship. So, but God has filled that space, and I'll tell you what I believe he does. I think he uses the pain, and I think people have to deal with their pain, run to it instead of run from it. Yes. And I think running to it and dealing with it has given me a definition. Instead of hurting people or using people or being angry out of your pain, I'm conscious of the pain and what it can do. So now he's turned it around and made it motivation to help other people. Yes. So, and that I think may be where the confidence comes from. We know what we have to give, and we want to give it, and we don't have a lot of time.
Yes.
We really don't. Heaven's coming, which is exciting.
Yes.
But if you turn around twice, 20 years go by.
Very quickly.
Whatever you're going to get done, you can get it done.
Got to keep moving. Now, I know that your children are in the production tonight.
Yes.
Now, sometimes with ministry, people are pulling their children, and sometimes it just flows. Is it important? How important is it to make sure that your children are connected?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what, if you listen to the introduction on the CD, the reason I put the introduction of the CD is it houses the voice of critics. And so questions, like, what are you doing? Are you sure you want to do this? This is outside the box. Well, some of the loudest critics were my kids. I was down in the basement writing rhymes to a beat. My son came down like, Dad, what are you doing? I'm like, yo, I'm writing this rhyme. He's like, why? He's like, you're not a rapper. My younger daughter came down and said, Dad, you're too old. I mean, what are you doing? You know, they're like, why don't you just sit down in the living room and watch TV? I'm like, you mean sit down and just sit down? You know I can't do that. But anyway, as I persisted, and I think this is a good point for anybody who has a dream.
Yes.
I just kept going. And I'll be honest with you, I looked at them, I said, look, you guys are broke, so I'll take your advice, but I'm not just going to take, you know, you guys are miles depending on me, so I hear you, so you actually motivated me to make sure whatever I do, it's good. But what's crazy is they've done a 360. Even my wife's on the project, Todd's on the next project. We're already working on the next album. I got 6 songs already. But Elena is on 2 of the songs on the project, one of which I mentioned earlier. Todd is on one of the songs from the next project, and he's also in one of the songs on the current project. But what's crazy is they're really good. So what the Lord showed me is this may be like David setting up Solomon. So I'm not actually trying to become the next best, greatest rapper. But as a pastor, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, I like setting stages. But I like being involved in the stage as much as possible too. So if we can set a stage that empowers not just my kids, but other kids. So they're there because they want to be. They're really excited about this.
See, that's awesome, because when you just go forth and do it, God brings it all together. So
Yes.
that definitely answers the questions that you don't have to pull. If you're doing what God has told you to do, it's going to come together.
Yeah. I'll share something with you. I think that me and my wife made this decision. Okay. There are people who, when their parents call, like, when are you going to call me? When are you going to call me? When are you going to come and see me? And they're like, I'm like, okay, I took a look at that. I'm like, why is that? I think a part of that is because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes parents stop growing as people. And they put all their baskets in their kids. But what's crazy is kids grow up and they leave.
Right.
Like, yo, we're having Thanksgiving. No, Mom, I'm going over so-and-so's house. What do you mean? Because they want to live their own life. That's actually very natural. What I think parents should do is stay in the front so that you're still the role model. So like, for instance, if me and my wife are in Japan or we're in Australia and the kids are like, where you guys at? We didn't know. Well, we're in Australia. Why didn't you tell us? Why? Now they want to keep following us because we're still doing things. It's the same position you've always had. You've always been out in front of your kids living.
Wow.
And so I think that that's something we constantly talk about with the degrees. I've got 6 degrees, 3 masters, 2 doctors. My wife, we did the doctorate together. Now we're working on music, and I remember Jerry Falwell, before he passed away, at 70 years old, he was casting vision. So I don't see any reason to stop.
Ain't no stopping. Ain't no stopping at all. With the God that we serve, there is no stopping. There's so much to do and so much more to do. So I compliment you on your debut. I know it's going to be awesome. The atmosphere is just awesome. We didn't even see the production yet, but just the atmosphere is awesome. So we thank you again for taking time out to talk with us about the Professor. And Glory Got Me.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for having us, and it's a sheer joy to be on Point of View. Thank you so much. And to Point of View audience, listeners, and viewers, God's blessings on you, and I certainly wish God's best in everything that you put your hand to.
All right, thank you again for tuning in to Point of View. Have a blessed night.
Winners, put your hands up.
your view? Point of view, point of view. What's your point of view? Tell me what's your point of view? What's your point of view? Tell me what's your point of view? It is your view. Point of view, point of view. What's your point of view? It's time to hear from you. Welcome to